Hello my friends, and welcome back to Meerkat Musings. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, which I will confess I have neglected a little bit of late. I've recently kind of relaunched my podcast channel, albeit only with a handful of episodes so far. So when it comes to my audio-visual content, I confess that I have neglected the video side of things somewhat, but I am correcting that today with this little video, which is really just a video about nothing. You know, it's a video about musings, about thoughts and feelings I've been having over the past few weeks, and you know, very much as ever, it's to accompany my excessive written stuff, my excessive verbiage, as it were, over on Meerkat Musings. So if you want some context for some of this, you're probably better off reading the site, to be fair. It's probably more coherent, actually, on the site than it is in verbal form. But, hey-ho, as I've said before, we need to be a multi-channel Meerkat, don't we, in this day and age to succeed, I guess. And on the subject of success, the second part of my Chon If saga, the sequel to The Awakening, is now very much being looked at by my publisher. The good people at Jumpmaster Press are going through it as we speak. At some point, it will come back to me for edits, and then it will go back and then come back again, and that process will happen maybe 2 or 3 times, and then it will be locked in for publishing, which will, of course, then be very exciting. They themselves actually said that they're looking to release this at some point next year. Of course, exactly when next year is presently up in the air. I couldn't say as to a precise launch date as yet, but it's in the works. You know, the sequel is coming, and I would like to kind of say that's a success, isn't it? I think that's something to be proud of, and I certainly am proud of that. And there's other stuff, of course, with the writing that's bubbling away. So we'll see how that kind of fares. One thing that I have done, and maybe you've noticed this, maybe you haven't, I did self-publish something earlier in the year. I've decided to remove that on the grounds that it simply wasn't good enough. Why I decided to self-publish this rather than going through my publisher, I do not know. But that was in hindsight a mistake, and I've removed that from circulation. And maybe I'll revisit that at some point. Maybe I won't. I don't know. But in the meantime, I'm moving forward with all things to do with the Chonif Empire. I have broken ground on part 3, albeit not to a tremendous degree, and I have kind of toyed with the idea of some kind of prequel, but I'm not completely sure with that as to how to do it. I did ponder going right back to the origins of the Chonif religion, basically. I mean, going back thousands of years, but I don't know if that's going back too far. I don't know. It's an idea that I had that I'm pursuing a little bit, but the main thing is part 3, of course. But the main thing is actually part 2 and getting that all kind of squared away. Of course, I say that. There's actually something else that I'm working on, which is completely different again to any of this. And that is something I've actually written, it's something like between 20 and 30,000 words of. And I need to kind of get back into that at some point. But the truth be told is I haven't been particularly motivated of late to do much writing. In fact, I will confess to struggling for motivation in general terms. I've not been too well recently. I've had a cold, and that has kind of knocked me for 6 a little bit. It came on very abruptly, and it really was quite painful in some respects. And I think it then led to stuffy sinuses, which led to pressure headaches, and generally speaking, not a lot of fun. It's left me feeling quite tired and somewhat lethargic, and It's not helped by a few things kind of overshadowing me a little bit, things to do with work. We're down to a team of 2 now for the immediate future. I don't know how long that scenario will last for. It could be for a few weeks, it could be for a few months. I have no idea. But when we're down to a team of 2, what it does mean is lots of lone trading days are in my immediate future. Now, this isn't automatically a problem for me. I've done it before, I will do it again. But when it's over and over again, and this can go one of 2 ways. If it's particularly quiet, then it can, of course, be quite boring. But if it's particularly busy, it can be quite stressful. Now, between being bored and being stressed, I'd sooner be bored, but neither option is necessarily ideal. And there's a few other things as well relating to my employer that have given me reason to think about my long-term future as well. And without going into too much detail, I have been putting the feelers out there a little bit. Because when it comes down to it, what I need to do is ultimately focus on number 1, on me and mine. My priority has to be my family. And, my family will always trump anything to do with work. It's as simple as that, So I will ponder my future and ponder it quite seriously. And I will ponder what's best for me and mine, as I have to. That actually got me thinking a little bit about an upcoming blog post of mine, in fact, a recent blog post, I should say, of mine on the subject of quiet quitting, which is a thing that people have spoken about. It's often referred to in a derogatory sense by employers. In fact, I think it was employers who termed the term quiet quitting as a means of almost shaming employees, and the reason for this basically was because what they noticed was a pattern of people who were no longer going above and beyond for their employers. People were not staying late as much at work. They weren't prepared to come in as early or to come in on days off. They weren't prepared to accept being badgered about work whilst at home, and some employers didn't like this. They were hoping that people might want to work harder for the good of the company. But if the company isn't providing the incentives and rewards for hard work, then why would someone necessarily want to go above and beyond? Ultimately, we all work long hours. A lot of us are at work from quite early in the morning till quite late in the evening, and irrespective of whether the job is always busy or not, nonetheless we're going in, we're making that journey, however long it might be, spending several hours in a shop, in an office, and a lot of us will probably feel underpaid, and a lot of us will probably feel overworked. And so when we are done for the day, when we go home after a long day at work, we don't want to then be pestered by our employers about this, that and the other. We don't want to be expected to stay late for the benefit of the company if there is no benefit to us. And I think people have rightly said, you know what, we're not going to do this anymore. There's been this kind of collective shift in the mentality of a lot of people thinking, you know what, hang on a minute, when I'm at home, that's my time. It's not work time. It's my time to do the things I want to do with the people I want to do them with. It's not for the employer to pester and badger and guilt trip people into coming in on time off or fielding work calls or jumping onto Zoom meetings when you're at home. That's not particularly fair. If you're on TikTok, there's actually a few people on there that routinely actually kind of expose the attitudes of bad bosses who will make these kinds of unreasonable demands, and they will try and guilt their employees into doing more work, kind of off the clock, so to speak, that they're not necessarily going to get much pay or reward for. And needless to say, I'm with the employees. If you want people to go the extra mile for you, then be prepared to offer more of an incentive, and also try to lead by example. On the occasions where I've been prepared to stay late at work and put in an extra shift, it's been for bosses and people that I like and respect. If it's someone that I don't particularly have much respect for, then I've been out the door bang on closing time, because why would I devote more time, my time in particular, to someone who frankly isn't very nice and not worthy of respect? I'm not going to do that. Of course I'm not going to do that. And I think that's entirely reasonable. Equally as well, if people are at work later, pay them for their efforts. I don't think that's an unreasonable expectation. Companies are kind of hoping that you'll work for free, and they're making record profits here, then everywhere, while other people are struggling to pay their rent. There's something fundamentally wrong with that picture. So quiet quitting to me is great. Another way of looking at it is it's merely people working to their contracts and doing the job they are paid to do. And why would you expect them to do anything different? So, yeah, that's something which has come up recently on my blog. Also on my blog, I can't remember if I've actually already published this, stuff about my crazy dreams, as always. At the risk of this one being taken in slightly the wrong context here, I had a dream where I was going to, how can I put this, an orgy. And it's not the sort of dream you might think that it would be based on that description. But I was actually there looking to kind of solve a murder. And at one point, me and the characters from the TV show Only Murders in the Building, so Steve Martin, Martin Short and Selena Gomez, we were snooping around this old abandoned house / caravan thing. And whilst we were snooping around looking for clues, we were then confronted by the character of Agatha from Agatha All Along, who's a witch. And it then got very weird from there, and it got all magical and witchy. And then I woke up. No idea what brought that on. No idea as to the context of any of it. But then that's the thing about dreams, isn't it? I mean, they will just throw up these random events and notions, and I can't compute half of it. I've got no idea what's going on in this subconscious brain of mine. Part of it was probably brought on from not feeling 100%. And my subconscious tends to go to weird places when I'm not well anyway. In fact, my subconscious just goes to weird places all the time. There's no denying that one at all. Beyond all of that, what else has been going on? Well, I'm going to spring back to the topic of work for a second, but not for the reasons you might think. I recently got a bus ride which went past my old employer, or one of my old employers, and this site where I spent over 7 years is now being demolished. I went past it and it was being ripped down, and it was quite surreal actually to see this. I mean, it's a place where I dedicated a lot of time, where I gave literally blood, sweat and tears to my colleagues. I pretty much loved my colleagues there. We went through a lot together. Some of them I'm still in touch with now. Sometimes we'll go out down the pub for drinks. Basically, we're mates, we're friends, and that's great. That's brilliant. It's very strange and surreal to see the place where we forged those friendships disappear. I mean, the company itself vanished a number of years ago, and the company that replaced it vanished 5 years ago. leaving the site empty, actually, for the last 5 years. It's been a long time coming that, for this and to see the building go. It should have gone probably years ago, actually. And unsurprisingly, it's going to become flats, homes. You could argue there is a need for cheap homes. Whether they will be cheap is a different question. But yeah, it's going to become a bunch of flats. I think something like between 200 and 400 was the number that I heard, which means they're probably going to be quite tall, or they're going to be quite small. Or, knowing the council, probably both. So we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, it was very strange and very surreal to see a part of my personal history, in many respects, being torn down. Part of me kind of thinks, I wish I'd known that was going to happen, because I could have helped, I mean, the company that I worked for, I have no love for them whatsoever. I can't say that I was terribly sorry to see them go when they quit the UK. They're still quite big in America, albeit the American arm of the business and the UK arm had pretty much no connection, to be fair. They were run almost as two independent companies. But, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be miserable to see, to see them go bye-bye. So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, really, in this latest, shall we say, muse cycle. I could go on about other stuff, and I could go on at length about other stuff, but I don't particularly want to or need to right now. There'll be Meerkat Muses on the website, as there always are. There'll be podcasts popping up, and hopefully, of course, as well, more videos for you to enjoy or to cringe at. So, with that in mind, I bid you all farewell until next time, and I hope that you all stay well. Take care.